be agreeing to a certain proposition that the Electricity Company of Ghana, which is the main utility service provider in this country, our republic, perhaps could be put under some level of privatization, just because we've had issues of management and recapitalization and whatever phrases we would want to use as far as trying to strengthen the institution is concerned. Is that the best way to go?
You see, there's a growing perception.
Also because we want to access the Millennium Challenge funds. Yes. And we know exactly. the next tranche we want to take is on investment on energy.
A number of issues. Ghanaians have been promised that there will be an end to Dumso.
Well, so far,
and we
haven't had
promised that certain new power plants, etc., will come on stream and will be able to deliver. Those power plants seem to have come on stream, and still we're going through Dumso. And so there's a perception that the government is deliberately putting Ghanaians through a process of hardship as far as energy is concerned. There's a perception that these difficulties is manufactured. You've just mentioned the issue of...
It's artificial?
It's artificial to create a situation that the energy sector is so bad that it needs to be privatized.
Is it not bad? With the current state of policy...
It is bad, but the perception is, why is it bad? Why is it not being fixed? How is it that with all those promises have been broken? How is it that what should be now addressing or fixing the situation has not fixed the situation? We've had additional mega wattage come on stream, and yet we're still going through a process. The question has to be asked, why? And many people believe that it's an artificial, as you said, it's a manufactured, it's a process of making the ECG, making the sector look so bad that it's ripe for privatization. Let me say that many Ghanaians, we, together with organized labor, together with civil society group, will resist any attempt to privatize the ECG. We have a situation in this country where governments create nothing. They have created nothing in this Fourth Republic, but they keep selling. We're going to get to a point where we will have nothing to sell. How do we then manage our economy? You know, when is the MPP and NDC going to create anything? Are they just going to continue to sell everything that the CP has created? And when they get to a point where they have nothing to sell, how do we then fix the economy? We have to fix the system. We have to fix our economy. We have to fix our companies. We have to fix our institutions. We have to stop thinking that selling it is the option. And the surprising thing is, before MPs rose, they seem to have passed this bill, and many of them, and I'm sure your station should try and call many of the MPs who have given their approval to this bill, seeking the Millennium Challenge, the compact and the Millennium Challenge account, whether they understand the conditionalities involved. Because some who were spoken to while I was on a program this weekend did not know that this is some of the conditionalities. So do we have a parliament that understands what is passing? It's very, very frightening indeed that we have a parliament passing a law and they don't seem to understand some of the implications. And should other countries be putting conditionalities on us before, if that's the case, we should not seek the compact. We should not seek the compact if the conditionality is that there should be private sector participation. And that private sector participation means privatize ECG. We don't need to privatize ECG. We need to fix it, get the right managers in place. We have the mega wattage, but in the overall energy sector, there's a huge list of alternatives that we can do to add to, and we as a party have already published a comprehensive process, a comprehensive list of things that we can do in the energy sector to add to the efficiency of the system.
Okay, we know capitalism, privatization.
Yes.
Whoever has equity is all for profit.
That's right.
I mean, it's as basic as it can get in the economic and business textbooks. Whoever wants to tell you anything on the contrary, perhaps is giving you some falsehood. How is this one going to be different?
Privatization of a very essential,
strategic
institution like ECG. And no way should it be entertained by anybody as far as this country is concerned.
Why?
And I'm coming there. You see, ECG produces electricity. I mean, they distribute electricity.
Now they distribute
Yes, they distribute electricity. Now, electricity, whether we like it or not, in this current state, has become a necessity commodity. Just like air, just like water, just like energy. So has electricity become. Of course, electricity is under energy. So has electricity become. It has become something that we cannot do without. When electricity is affected, it affects individuals. It affects productivity. It affects development. It affects the nation. Electricity has become the backbone of development. Electricity has become the lifespan. If you take away water, air, electricity is the next necessity that any human being needs. And so, if such an important, integral part of human existence, we will want to put it in the hands of individuals whose priority,
or foreign companies,
companies,
money from
even if it is internal individuals, Ghanaians, as long as they are individuals with the motive of maximizing profits or making money, it is so dangerous for the well-being of any individual. And on that score, I do not think anyone should entertain that. You see, what is happening with ECG is the fact that they are working under capacity. Capacity in terms of resources. Capacity in terms of money that they need. If you really go into, yes, there might be wastages in the system. You may want to raise that. There might be some, what we call mismanagement. You may want to talk about that. But on a whole, if, just like Adelda brother made this scenario, if you bring, you want me to sew a hat for you, and I tell you that you should bring 1 meter of the cloth, and you end up bringing 0.5 meter of the cloth. The truth of the matter is you've already tied my hand from the beginning. And so my ability to use the 0.5 meter to produce the hat that you will need, there is an initial challenge there already. And that is the scenario that we find ECG in.
Let me add to what he's saying. Let me put this question to you. Our country has many.
You mean you're putting a question
to make the point. To make the point.
Right. Okay.
If many communities in this country do not have electricity, and there's a need to expand the grid, a need to expand electricity to all of those areas. Now, given the point that Emmanuel has said, what will happen to somebody whose only motive is profit? Are those communities likely to receive it?
You want me to answer?
I want you to share in the point that we are making.
All right.
Why it should not be privatized.
For me, as far as my
Oh, I can give you an answer.
No. As far as my mind and what I have studied and read about tells me, whoever is undertaking a business is undertaking one for profits.
That's right.
The other auxiliary objectives are to create employment opportunities and also expand, etc., for growth. Now, when you privatize and somebody comes to take over the assets of any entity or a firm, take over the assets and the liabilities. What you have to do in order to maximize growth, usually as we've seen around the world, in the capitalist world, you cut costs. And if you're cutting costs, you cut jobs, you cut expansion efforts for some time until you can recoup. And I know that in our society, looking at the level of incomes that are generated per capita, etc., I don't know whether privatization is a way to go.
Yes, no. So the answer is no, unlikely.
No, I can say no.
No, I can say that. I can say that unlikely. And we have examples from other jurisdictions. What was happening to, let's say, privatization of the postal service in Europe, in other countries? What happens is that the village postmaster, the village post office, all of those sort of outlets were closed. Because the person who's seeking just profit thinks that it is unprofitable in those margins.
Just like when state banks are taken over
But the
by...
postal service should be a national service. An energy sector should be for everybody. It's a national thing. As Emmanuel said, it's a necessity.
But we need to manage it. We need to manage it with just profit.
And we can manage it.
It needs to be managed. I mentioned that to be one of the difficulties that anyone will want to raise. But I'm saying that the fundamental problem with ECG is the fact that they are operating under-resourced. And any organization that operates under-resourced, you have tied the hands of that organization, in the hands that will be used to deliver what you need to have. You've tied that hand. You understand? What I expect that we will do as a nation is let's rather think outside the box. And this is the problem I have with leaders, individuals who have gotten the chance of leading us from 92 to date. They seem to always be using the easiest way out. We have Ghana Telecom. It is not being managed well. It is recording less profit. And so what do? Let's sell it off. We have Company A, Corporation A. It is not going very well. So what do? Let's sell it off. Selling off assets is not the best way of managing assets.
Well, we do understand.
Let us find a way of working outside the box. One, if ECG, what is the reason why ECG seems to be going through the challenges that they are going through? And I'm saying that number one reason why ECG goes through the challenges that it's supposed to go, aside all other things, some reasons might be as a result of their own mismanagement and the rest. The major difficulty with ECG has to do with the fact that over the past years, the nation has not been able to resource ECG adequately. We've not been able to give ECG the resources that is needed for them to operate. And so if this is the difficulty, what do we do as a nation? These are the things that we should be asking ourselves. Other than saying that we want to sell off ECG, in conclusion, I have said, and I've made that point earlier on, and I'm not going to belittle it. Electricity has become a very essential commodity, just like water, just like air. The question I'm posing is this: if we want to privatize air, we'll be comfortable in putting air in the hands of an individual whose interest is to maximize profits. Then let us also be comfortable in doing so to electricity. But if we are not comfortable with trading air, with trading water, then I'm saying that nobody should be comfortable in privatizing electricity.
And the margins of our society, those who haven't even got to the point where Emmanuel has explained, of desperately needing electricity, are they likely to get it? So development will be hampered in this country.
Okay, you have lived in the UK for decades.
I've lived in many jurisdictions.
Well, I do understand.
And I want to apply...
Foremost, you have worked in many jurisdictions.
Yes.
Because of your work, you've lived there. But
yes.
you foremost have made your life in the United Kingdom.
Predominantly, yes.
I know that there's some level of privatization as far as we're concerned. I know that the last amendment of the UK law on privatization of electricity was even as at 1991. So there's some level of privatization there.
Oh yes, I mean
they make a lot of profits and pay a lot of dividends to the government.
Yeah,
why would you think that Ghana cannot do the same?
We cannot begin to run before we are crawling. That's the situation. We have, as I've explained, there are many communities who are even waiting for electricity to reach those communities.
So we haven't gotten there.
That means that we have a long way to go to get to a point where we have maximized supply, we have enhanced people's lives, and that means that our developmental agenda will grow. If we get to a situation where we put this in the hands of somebody who's predominantly after profit, those communities will not get electricity. Unlikely to. It may not be profitable for them. You have a situation where there are many communities that cannot afford it. Does that mean that you don't take electricity there because there's not enough people in the community who can pay for it? And that's not the sort of government we.
So that's the social aspect of it.
Of course.
Okay. Now, do we think that we'll be better off if we keep the status quo like this? Then what do we need to do to make sure there's better management of the facility of the entity in itself?
We need to find managers of such institutions, if not within our own country, even externally. But I'll put it to you that we haven't got to a point where we're getting the best managers within Ghana to manage institutions. We haven't got the best people within our own country to manage those institutions. But if we fail to do that, we should even go beyond our borders. We can go to South Africa, we can go to Nigeria, we can go to anywhere to get the managers to manage the institutions. After all, if the whole issue is that we want to privatize it for the sake of some other entity managing it, then we can own it and get a different, efficient manager to manage the process for us. And the difference is that any wealth that is created from our own strategic resource stays in the country. We cannot have a situation where every single resource we have is being done with the telecoms.
Okay.
If we want to do it with water.
So what do we need to do now?
Everything is, the wealth is always extracted.
The CPP and even, okay, not necessarily the CPP, but it seems that some interest groups don't want this, the ECG to be privatized.
Oppose it.
Of course not. Yes, that's
So what will be done? Because Parliament seems to have approved the whole process already.
They're going for the compact, yes.
Well, they have approved the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, definitely. Once the MOU has been.
Yes, and
it means as a principle you agree.
Exactly, that's what it means.
In plain language, that's what it means. In principle, I agree.
We agree.
So when you bring, don't understand what they signed.
And even
they do. They're very much as intellectual.
The MP, some of them didn't know that this is what they were saying.
Well, perhaps they didn't know.
Some of them on your show.
Perhaps they didn't do enough scrutiny on it. Yes.
Quickly on this one, the last sitting, I mean, when the Parliament decided to rise, I think somewhere last week, I was in Parliament, and one of the colleagues.
You mean you are not a member?
No.
I'm an observer.
Okay. I went to Parliament, and you know, if you call any of them that were there, the sitting lasted deep into the night because they were having a whole lot of things.
Yeah, trying to clear through.
And I raised an issue with one friend who is a parliamentarian. I told him that, look, these are the mistakes you people do, and you end up passing things that you yourself you do not really understand. And so I support him that
it's been put
you may want to interview some of them. I will not be surprised that some of them may not have even realized what they passed.
How?
But you see, the truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is this: not just as a PNC member, as a socialist, but as a concerned Ghanaian citizen. I'm saying that energy is such an essential commodity. We should not entertain the privatization of it. Yes, Parliament may have passed the MOU, but the truth of the matter is that over the past years, we've had instances where Parliament has rescinded its decision by the actions of the populace. If this continues, some of us will have to hit the streets. We will have to demonstrate. We will have to do all the things that we need to do to ensure that this thing stops. And I'm praying that it doesn't get to this stage where, you know, things will go out of hand, because we will not sit down and will not allow this to see the light of day. It is really alarming, and it is not going to augur well for our development as a nation.
So you're hitting the streets.
I put it to you that
the CPP alone?
Our MPs.
No, but CPP didn't say. It is PNC that said so.
Yes, many MPs do not understand what they're signing. I'm putting it to you that members of Parliament have not known, do not know that ECG is going to be
call them at random. I mean, I would not be surprised. I'm not saying authoritatively that they do not understand, but I'm saying I will not be surprised.
Discuss the conditionalities of what they have just, the understanding they've just approved. But I say that we will resist it, and we'll resist it together with PNC, together with anybody, together with organized labor, together with civil society groups. The majority of Ghanaians will oppose this.
Very soon.
The majority will oppose it, and will mobilize them to oppose.
Very soon. It is clear that it has become difficult for government to think outside the box. And all we believe in is the selling of assets. Very soon, there's going to be a proposal. We are going to come out with a proposal. And I'm sure in course of the week, in course of next week, you all get copies of those proposals. Proposals are coming for us to see how best we can implement that proposal that will salvage this issue of privatization of ECG. I'm telling you for a fact.
Yeah, okay. The gentleman who just left your screens is Emmanuel Wilson. He's a national organizer of the People's National Convention, the PNC, and also with the CPP is its communications director, Niama Kumfra. He is by profession Quantity surveyor?
A surveyor by profession, yes.
Surveyor by profession. Trained in the United Kingdom. Okay. Nice talking to you, gentlemen. I hope to have you again sometime.
A pleasure to be here.